The PlayStation 5 just updated, and there are some things you may not know about. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, PS5 update, new and hidden features you should know. Starting off at number 10, you can now store PS5 games in USB Extended Storage. This is a major one too. It's on the top of Sony's list of changes with the update, and we're just going to start off with it as well. One of the biggest issues people have had with the PS5 is storage. The system only has a fairly paltry 660 gigabytes of free storage for games, which really doesn't cut it these days. Games like Black Ops Cold War are 133 gigabytes alone, and that's a huge chunk of your storage just gone. So having this kind of option to increase your storage space is a huge lifesaver for some people. There are a lot of caveats though. You cannot play the games from external storage. You can only store them there, which might sound pointless to some of you, but for people dealing with data caps, being able to locally store a game rather than have to re-download it is a pretty nice option, even if not completely ideal. And at least they made it easier to move games to extended storage. It used to be with PS4 games at least, you'd have to dig through the system menu to transfer them. Now you can just do it from the home screen by pressing options when highlighting a game. One annoying thing about the process is you still can't do it in the background. You need to set aside a little bit of time to transfer stuff, because while a game is transferring, there is nothing else you can do. And even though they now let you store your PS5 games externally, you can't store your saved games externally. I guess they really want you to do PS Cloud to the point where they're not going to give you that additional option. We've still got a few complaints about how this works, but it's a much needed feature that's a lifesaver to anyone like us that is on a metered connection. At number 9, the PS5 is now quieter. This one is anecdotal, but it seems like both the cooling fan noise and the disc spinning noise on the system have been made a lot quieter. This might just be fan excitement and speculation, but it seems like enough people are reporting a change that there might actually be something to the claims. The PS5 used to have two pretty annoying habits. In rest mode, the cooling fans would go nuts if the USB port was active, and if you were trying to play a disc game, the PS5 would spin up the disc every so often, and for whatever reason, it would have to do it at a really high RPM, so it'd be really noisy. We're talking like game install speeds here, so it was unnecessarily fast for what amounted to the system checking that the disc was still inserted. Remember, we're not in the Xbox 360 era anymore. All PS5 games are installed to the hard drive, so outside of the initial check when you insert a disc, it really shouldn't need to spin it anymore, yet it did, and really loudly and really often as well. For many players, at least, these two annoyances are either gone or greatly diminished. The cooling fan isn't so noisy in sleep mode, and the disk drive doesn't make as much noise. Still seems to be doing a disk check every so often, but it's not nearly as loud as it was before. Like we said, it's mostly anecdotal, and Sony didn't mention anything about this stuff in their update log, but enough people are saying it that there might be something there. At number 8, 120Hz output is now supported. This is another big one. Certain 120Hz monitors are now supported. It maxes out at 1080p at 120Hz, so you can't run the PS5 at 4K or anything, but it still supports 4K monitors that display at 120Hz, of course. Just displays 1080p at max while in 120. Considering how much the PS5 sometimes struggles to run games at 4K at 60Hz, probably wasn't realistic to expect it to run it at 4K with 120Hz, but still a little disappointing to hear. If you want to try this out, the setting is in settings, screen and video output. It's a great addition, although I think there are still some issues with the implementation. One annoying thing is that while 1080p and 4K is supported on the PS5, 1440p monitors are not. This has been the case since the PS5 came out, and this update does not change that. I'm not sure exactly why, but 2K seems to really be a big issue for Sony. At number 7, HDR can be toggled now. This is a really nice option that's been added in the update. Now, for games that don't support HDR, which if you don't know is high dynamic range, you can just turn it off in the settings under Settings, Screen and Video output. Now, why is this a big deal? Because HDR used to be forced on any game if you were using an HDR compatible screen, even for games that were pre-HDR. Because of this, those games ended up looking worse, definitely not better in most cases, as they just aren't designed for that kind of color range, and it would make them look kind of weird sometimes. So being able to turn it off by default is very nice, though it was odd that they made it universal from the beginning. This is a case where you think HDR implementation would be set on a game-by-game basis, but apparently not. Anyways, this is a good option for people with HDR monitors who are playing older backwards compatible games. And number 6, they've added more HDMI device link features. Like, does your monitor or TV support HDMI device linking, but you have found the implemented features on the PS5 annoying? Well, this update, they've added a few options so you can tailor the whole device linking stuff to your preferences. If you don't know or care about device linking, then this doesn't matter to you at all. But if you, like us, were getting really annoyed that anytime you turned on your TV, by default the PS5 would also turn on, this is good news. We just turned off device linking entirely, but now you can customize how it works, so you can, for example, set it so the TV turns on when you start the PS5 and not the other way around. All these options can be found under Settings, System, HDMI, and though as minor and gimmicky as device linking can appear to some people, it's nice that they made it so you can adjust these to our liking rather than just a big on-off switch. I like being able to turn on the PS5 and have it turn my TV on, but not the other way around, which we were basically stuck with before. At number 5, and this is not actually a positive change if it is indeed true, it is anecdotal, so this might not actually be a problem, but we have found a decent amount of people complaining about their download speeds dropping, sometimes significantly after the update, specifically when it came to Wi-Fi connections. So the update might be screwing Wi-Fi up. A lot of people have reported that using an Ethernet cable, perfectly fine, but attempting to download anything online gave them very bad download speeds. As usual with these kind of things, others report their connections improving rather than getting worse. It feels like Sony did something to the system's Wi-Fi software, but at the moment it's really hard to tell exactly what. It's possible that with the update the PS5 is having trouble connecting to certain Wi-Fi hertz bands, but at the moment it's almost entirely speculation. Hopefully, if there is some kind of issue with the update, they will hotfix it soon, but again, that also depends to some extent on people making noise about it. Thankfully, people are. Honestly, as somebody who uses Wi-Fi, you always kind of hope that the update isn't the problem, because mine's working fine, and that sort of gives this impending doom sense that I don't like, but we'll see. At number 4, there's now a disabled game chat audio option. For anyone who started up a game of Destruction All-Stars and then got bombarded with babies crying, screaming, and general weird muttering for people who do not realize their PS5 controller mics are on, or trying to figure out some way to shut that stuff off, this option is for you. Before, there was no universal disable game chat option. There were multiple options you have to dig through, both in the PS5 menu system and any in-game menus, and it was all kind of a mess, especially for a system that has mics on by default. Now, if you don't want to be heard and you don't want other people to hear you, just go to the control center, sound, and hit disable game chat audio. It's great for muting randos online who in our experience usually don't have a lot to contribute anyways, at least with the kinds of games we play. What's nice about this is it doesn't apply to party chat, so you won't have to fiddle with the setting every time you actually play with your friends. So if you form a party, this option will not mute you. It's a simple option, but it's a very useful one, and for a lot of people out there, I think it's going to be one you want to enable. At number 3, you can now unfollow games, which is a nice new option. Sony made it so you can hide games with a few new options. It might sound totally pointless to some, but it's actually a great option for people who don't like certain games appearing on their home screen or just don't want to see certain things in their library anymore. Think stuff like demos, free-to-play games you tried but didn't like, or just games you don't see yourself playing anymore. You can now remove them. There's actually 2 options. There's unfollow and hide. When you unfollow a game, it makes it so you will no longer see it on the home screen if and when it updates. Think stuff like free-to-play online games that will show up again when a new season starts. If you don't want to see that, choose to unfollow. Actually, finding this option is a little irritating. It's buried in the save data and game app setting of the settings menu, which gives you a list of all your games and lets you select the ones you want to unfollow. Hiding happens in the game library. It works pretty much the same way it does on the PS4. If you hide a game, it won't show up anywhere in your collections tab anymore. This can be done by hitting options while highlighting game from the game library, so it is a little easier. Now, if you ever do want to see those hidden games again, you have to change the filter options to see hidden items. So basically, these options are all over the place, but if you're sick of seeing something on the screen, it is great to have. At number 2, the PS5 controller got an update. It's kind of interesting because it wasn't just the PS5 that got an update, the controller did as well. They don't specifically mention what the update did, but most people speculate that Sony improved some backwards compatibility on some vibration. I've seen people mention games like Warzone and F1 2020 have stronger vibration now after the controller firmware update. To go along with that, you can now see your wireless controller's battery percentage in the control center, which is nice. It used to be kind of difficult to tell what the current charge level of the controller-wise, but this new graphic makes it way easier to tell at a glance how charged your controller is. Small change, but it used to be really annoying. Finally, at number 1, people are reporting different problems or solutions regarding rest mode crashing. For some, it seems to have improved it, and for some, it seems to have made it worse. A long-standing and very annoying issue people have been dealing with on the PS5 is the system crashing when entering into, being in, or exiting out of rest mode. It's a huge issue that for a ton of people remains unresolved and possibly even ruins the system. For that reason, we're going to tread carefully and say that this is not advice we're giving here, we're just trying to report what some PS5 players have said. For some, the rest mode issue seems to be resolved with this new update, possibly because of some background change made by Sony, but also possibly because of the rebuilding database that's done when the system updates. This one's a lot more sketchy in general because for every post I see where people say the rest mode is fixed, I see another that says the issue's still happening. It's really hard to say one way or the other what's actually going on. It's possible the update made some improvements to how rest mode works, but it's also entirely possible that it didn't do anything, or in some cases actually made it worse. Again, we're talking anecdotal stuff, and Sony hasn't said anything one way or the other. At this point, it's probably safer to just stay out of rest mode on your PS5 for the time being. There's just not enough out there to know one way or the other, and there are enough people still dealing with the crashes that it's still clearly an issue. But what do you think? Leave us a comment, let us know. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications, and as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time, right here on GameRanx.